I think folks are really worried about shiny object syndrome, right? Like, I am not anti-shiny object syndrome. If you listen to like me talking in the beginning of everything I've invested in and done and been involved in, it's very clear I have shiny object syndrome. But I think what you should do if you're just thinking about getting started investing in real estate, like, it's look at it like a buffet, right? You typically walk around and you sample a little bit of everything until you find the thing that you really like, and then that's what you focus on and that's what you eat. It's the same way. So it's totally fine to be like, hey, I think I'm interested in multifamily. Let me invest in a multifamily deal and see how that's run and learn about that. And then, hey, maybe you don't like it. That's totally fine. And then maybe next thing you try is short-term rentals or residential assisted living. Who knows what that is? But if you're just sitting on the sidelines thinking about how interested you may be in all of these different asset classes and you're not taking action, you're going to be sitting in the same spot in a year. And you're going to be just sitting there thinking, oh, maybe I'll do that one day. Just take action. Just get started, because that next deal is going to compound into the next one and the next one. You just have to do that first deal. That first deal is what's most important.
This is my time. I'm on the ride. Hi, I'm Kyle Stevenson, and you're listening to the Assets and Orthopedics podcast. This show is for high-income professionals who want to think like the wealthy. We focus on elevating mindsets, building empires, and creating a lasting legacy. Our goal is to empower you with financial intelligence, long-term strategies, and the mindset shifts necessary to achieve true financial freedom. We dive into real estate investing, entrepreneurship, and wealth-building systems that help you break free from the grind and live with purpose. At Legacy RX, we live by a simple creed: be bold, embrace the hunt, unleash the beast. It's time to take action, design a life of purpose, and fearlessly pursue the freedom you deserve. Enjoy the podcast. Hello and welcome to the Assets and Orthopedics podcast. This is your host, Kyle Stevenson. It is with great pleasure that I introduce you all to family physician and residential assisted living extraordinaire, Dr. Alex Schloe. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks, Kyle. Man, excited to be here. It's awesome. I love seeing everything that you're doing. Residential assisted living extraordinaire. That's a good title. Not there yet, but getting there, buddy.
All right, Alex, let me give a quick introduction of you, and then we'll have you start us on your journey. So Dr. Schloe is a board-certified family medicine physician, proudly serving in the United States Air Force, currently stationed in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Experienced real estate investor with diversified portfolio, including, as we talked about, residential assisted living, short-term rentals, and long-term rentals. He draws from firsthand experience in medicine to understand the financial and emotional challenges healthcare professionals face. Alex is founder of Physicians and Properties, a fast-growing platform and podcast helping doctors gain financial freedom through real estate investing. He also hosts the Physicians and Properties podcast, where he interviews physicians, healthcare professionals, and seasoned investors each week to share tactical insights and real-world experiences. And I was actually a guest on his podcast, which is awesome. It's a great show for sure. He leads a thriving Facebook community dedicated to empowering physicians to take control of their financial future. Alex is passionate about teaching and mentoring peers to break free from burnout, build wealth, and live with purpose beyond the white coat. All right. So what do you think? What can you add to that?
That was too kind of an introduction. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I also co-host the RAL Room Assisted Living podcast with my partner, Charlie. And we started a mastermind called the RAL Room Assisted Living Mastermind. I'm sure we'll get into all the fun residential assisted living stuff that we've been working on. But yeah, man, you nailed it. And like I said, too kind with that introduction. Happy to be here, Kyle.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We're honored to have you. And so real quick, tell us, a lot of physicians listening to this. So tell us about your medical career, medical school, residency, and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So yeah, family medicine physician in the Air Force, stationed in Colorado Springs. I always wanted to be a physician. My mom's got pictures of me. I think it was like 3 years old in scrubs, like, a little surgical mask and a stethoscope. Never wanted to be a surgeon though. Always wanted to be a family med doc. My mom went through some pretty tough illnesses when I was growing up, and my whole family saw the same family medicine physician, Dr. King. Shout out to her. She's listening. She was amazing. And she took care of my me and my brother and my mom and my dad and my grandparents. And it was just so cool to see her and see her in the community. She would show up at different like sporting events and all kinds of stuff. And I always thought like, this is awesome. And what a cool way to take care of families. And so always wanted to do family medicine. I think you can make such a huge difference in a community, such a huge difference in healthcare, even as broad as our nation and beyond as a family med doc. And so I enjoy being a jack of all trades, master of none, and helping out. I really love serving in the military, but am looking forward to separating here soon in a couple weeks, actually, which is
Oh, wow.
yeah, man, I'm pumped about that. It's been really cool to like look full circle as I'm getting closer to getting out. I've been in for 7 years and started investing in real estate intern year. Bought a house with a physician loan in Florida at Eglin Air Force Base for $58 out of pocket, no money down, physician loan. Yeah, it's been wild. In that I remember being terrified, Kyle, of like spending $58. I mean, we were making peanuts in residency, and you know how that goes. And then yeah, $58 is like, this is wild. And then bought that house. That's doubled in equity. Cash flow is like $1,200 a month, and that was kind of the start of investing for me. And there's a lot more from that perspective, but been really blessed with real estate and entrepreneurship, and teaching folks how you can practice medicine and live life how you want to with real estate and with entrepreneurship. And I'm really fortunate to be at that place now, looking back on my military career and everything I've been so fortunate to be a part of, and see like, hey, now I'm at the point where I can actually do that. So really excited for like this next chapter in life. Not 100% sure what that's going to look like, but going to be practicing medicine how I want to, whether that's part-time or working with a direct primary care clinic part-time, or what that'll look like. And spending more time with the family, doing more traveling, and just growing the businesses. So really, really looking forward to it.
Dude, that's great, man. I'm excited for you. Thank you for your service. First of all, 7 years, you put your time in. Didn't have to pay any medical school, right? Is that part of it?
Yeah, I did the Health Promotion Scholarship Program, which is the HPSP program. And basically how that works for folks that are listening, especially if there's some med students in here or folks thinking about med school listening to this, you basically get into med school while you're in college, or if you took a gap year, and then you apply to the HPSP program, whatever branch of the military you would like. If you get accepted, they pay for your 4 years of medical school. You get a small stipend, a signing bonus, and then you go into residency. The majority of folks do residency in the military, but depending on what specialty you're doing, some folks will go civilian deferred into a civilian program. But yeah, man, it was awesome. I was able to use the signing bonus and then the little stipend in med school to pay off my college debt. So I graduated med school completely debt free, which was amazing. And then was able to buy that house right out of med school. So really set me up well from that perspective, and just a big weight off. I mean, the amount of student debt because of med school and undergrad is crazy. I had friends who were graduating with $500,000 in loans, and I'm like, man, and they were feeling that pressure of like, hey, I've really always wanted to be, a pediatrician, for example, but now I feel like I have to go do a more high paying specialty strictly because of all the debt. And, that's sad, man. It shouldn't be that way.
My mentality towards student loans has changed a lot to the negative, and I really do think that the government has us by the balls, right? Medical students, undergrad. I mean, regardless of what you're doing, if you're taking out a ton of student loans, like they have you, because even if you pass, your next of kin or your spouse or your kids are going to pay for those student loans. They're not going away. The biggest asset the government has is student loans. So they need those loans. So it's a problem. I think something needs to be restructured there to help doctors, but we got to figure that out for ourselves, I think.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is just lack of financial literacy. I mean, we I don't know about you, but in my med school, I didn't learn anything about money. I didn't learn anything about business, nothing about real estate. Luckily, Jim Daly had just started the White Coat Investor, and so I was able to get some experience through that and through his podcast and the book and stuff. But it's just hard. And so you go into this position of like, you're in such an incredible amount of debt. Then you go to residency and you don't make, hardly any money. And then you hop into an attending role. And then all of a sudden you're making this huge amount of money, and you have this, rival fallacy of, I'm finally here. And now it's time to buy the Tesla, the fancy house and everything else. And you don't even think about like, hey, maybe it's time to buy some assets first that then pay for the Tesla and provide for that fancy house down the road. So delaying that gratification is important for folks.
Yeah, man. I mean, I was in residency. I was reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read White Coat Investor as well, but we'll get into it later too because I really do want to touch on the White Coat Investor. I like him. I think that he's done a good job for the community, but a little bit too much Dave Ramsey and not enough Robert Kiyosaki. So maybe that's what you and I are here for, to help with that buy the assets.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that later because I think that's why we have a platform, right? Is because we're trying to educate on this, and I think we need that more now than ever because healthcare has become a lot more middle class. Income's going down. You're taxed at a high rate. Your loans are extremely high. Interest rates are high to buy a house, so it's tough to do that. A lot of people are feeling very middle class, and so it's even more important to think outside the box a little bit. Think like the wealthy.
Yeah, absolutely right. I think, we all hear about the golden handcuffs. I think there's the golden stethoscope, man. I think it gets really tricky when you have such a high student loan balance, and then you're walking into a field of a lot of expectations of like, oh, all doctors are rich, and so then you feel that pressure to buy the fancy car, to buy the nice house, to wear the nice suit, whatever that may be. And yeah, I agree, man. I think that was part of the reason I started Physicians and Properties, is because there really wasn't a whole lot of education out there about real estate and entrepreneurship. And so I felt like, hey, I had folks coming to talk to me all the time about how do I invest in real estate? What do I do? Et cetera. And so I was like, hey, let's start the podcast. Let's do that. That's why I love what you're doing, man. Like there's so many physicians that we need to reach so that they aren't trapped by the golden stethoscope, so that they're able to practice medicine, live life how they want to. And I think a lot of times folks think about financial freedom as like, hey, I have to replace all my income with passive income and I need to do it like tomorrow. I'm like, no, like just invest in one asset, just buy one rental property. And then slowly that's going to stack over time. And then you're going to have financial, like some freedom, right? Like you don't have to go from 0 to 100. And then maybe it just looks like, hey, now you have some space to think and to breathe because you took a half day off, or, whatever that may look like. And then just keep going from there. So real estate is a get rich slow game for sure. And I think there's a lot of pressure with social media and everything else that folks think they need that like overnight success and then quit their job. We're fortunate that we do make a decent income, that we have really admirable professions, that we're able to change lives and save lives. And so like I'm not a proponent of, hey, everyone should be quitting their W-2, but I am a proponent of like you should have the income, the cash flow, the cushion, the ability to practice medicine how you want, whether that's 5 days, 1 day, or no days. And so anyways, man, I'm going on a rant, but yeah.
No, I was going to say that's very well said. The way you put that is fantastic. I'm glad you said that. Get rich slow, because it really is. And the people that are trying to push it and say that it's get rich fast, they're selling you something. So watch out. The other thing is, if you want a six pack, it's not going to happen tomorrow, right? It takes a lot of dedication, a lot of consistency, and same thing with real estate. So real quick, we're going to get into you and your journey more. But with this podcast, I've started to switch gears just a little bit. I started talking about real estate investing, and that was really the basis of it all. I was talking to medical students, physicians, residents, other high-income professionals, really on real estate investing. But I've really started kind of morphed into Legacy RX, where I got a conference in October, and I want to talk more about how the wealthy think, and it's similar to what you're talking about. And we're trying to empower high-income professionals to take control of their mindset, their health, their wealth, their impact on the communities. It's about breaking free from conventional financial constraints and embrace a bold pursuit of personal growth, financial independence, and generational wealth. And so, again, I think that you and what you're doing with Physicians and Properties, you're doing this. You're really educating the masses on this, and that's what we need, more voices like you. So tell us again how you got started. I know you mentioned the $58 down property, and that's probably what really catapulted you into all this. But did you start investing in residency like stocks, bonds, similar traditional mindset like everybody else, or did you grow up with a real estate family? Like, get us into the weeds a little bit about your origin.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I always had an entrepreneurial background. I was always the kid who was like shoveling driveways and getting paid for it, mowing grass and all those sorts of things. My brother and I used to do that, and we learned a great trick of instead of just saying, "Hey, I'll shovel your driveway for $20," just saying like, "Hey, I'll shovel your driveway for whatever you think is the right amount." So some people would give us $50, some people would give us 10, but we always had that kind of entrepreneurial background and always was interested in real estate too. I was always the kid that was like getting those free booklets, if you remember those, that had like all the houses for sale that you could get for free, and looking at that and just thinking about real estate and the opportunity that that would be. My dad, when I was in college, I got accepted into med school at the Medical College of Virginia. And we were walking around Richmond, Virginia. I was looking for a place to live, and I got a $20,000 signing bonus for the Air Force. And my dad said, "Hey, how about you take that bonus and think about buying a property and fixing it up while you're in med school?" My dad is an amazing man, the one of the best people in my life, and but he had no really investment experience or real estate experience, and he didn't know it at the time, but he planted a seed at that moment. And I did what every son typically does, and I didn't listen. And I regret that now. And I ended up just renting out an apartment and then realized that this is crazy and got some roommates and saved a lot that way. But at that moment, he planted a seed. And I always look back on that of like, man, if I just listened to dad and took that $20,000 signing bonus, it would have set me up, a lot more. But hindsight's 2020. Med school's rough. Renovating property would have been difficult. So then I knew like, hey, in residency, I'm buying a property. And Eglin Air Force Base is in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. There's not a lot of multifamily properties there because my plan was I'm going to buy like a duplex or a quadplex, live in one unit, rent out the others. There just wasn't any really for sale. So I ended up buying a house. That was the one I mentioned before, no money down. It cost me $58 for some like title fee they couldn't cover. And it was a live-in flip light. So like my wife came down, she helped me fix it up, and then now we rented that out. That was the start. While I was in med school, I started investing in a Roth IRA, stocks, bonds, etc., and trying to max that out while paying off debt. So I really tried to save as much as I could. I had and probably still have a scarcity mindset when it comes to money, just because my family didn't have it growing up, and I never wanted my kids to be in that position where they had to like think about money. And so I started investing in med school, then bought the first property in Florida. And then I met my current partner, Charlie Cameron. Shout out to him. Amazing guy. He was an Air Force engineer stationed at Eglin Air Force Base. We met on the Bigger Pockets forums, and then we just started hanging out. Now, one of my best friends, been business partners for, a long time now. Families are really close. And we started buying short-term rentals together, sold a couple of those off. And then we still kept one of those in the mountains. And then we moved to Colorado Springs when I got stationed here. And we actually house hack our basement where I'm currently at. We got a guest down there right now. So we live almost mortgage tax and insurance free in Colorado Springs just by renting out our basement. So then you're looking at $25,000 or so per month saved that we can invest in per year saved that we can then invest in other properties. Then we made the pivot to residential assisted living, and lots of reasons behind that. I think it's the best opportunity in real estate. I think residential assisted living is, it's like if you're going whale hunting or something, and you're taking your paddleboard out and you're taking the paddleboard to where you think the whale's going to be, so you can hope to see it. But you're putting your paddleboard in that position where you hope to make the opportunity to see the whale. I think residential assisted living is that whale. I think it's going to be the best opportunity now and for decades to come, just from simple supply demand. And we can get more into that. But we bought 5 residential assisted living properties in Arizona, me, Charlie, and then we have another partner, Luke. And we bought those. We leased those out to an operator on a commercial lease. And then we partnered with another operator in Wisconsin that we bought 3 more properties with him. And then we started the mastermind. And I've been really fortunate through Physicians and Properties. A lot of cool opportunities have come up to co-GP on some properties and raise capital. So raise some capital and do investor relations for a boutique hotel, a mobile home park, a 485 bed independent living development in the Villages of Florida. So it's been awesome, man. Like, it's just been a really cool journey. And then, Physicians and Properties has been such a blast to host that podcast and network with amazing people along the way.
That's amazing. All right. We can end the podcast right there.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Dude, you've done a lot, man. That's fantastic. You've done a lot in your short amount of time too. You're a young guy. So residential assisted living. Let's talk about it because I've been as a physician, I've been getting approached a lot more to say, hey, can you come help us out, be a GP on this deal because you're a physician. It makes sense. Like this whole aspect of the baby boomers, the largest generation is at that age where they need these assisted living facilities. Totally makes sense. I get it all. But I feel like ever since I got into this commercial space in general, I mean, I feel like you're one of the OGs. You've been talking about real estate, excuse me, you've been talking about residential assisted livings facilities for years, well before it started to get really popular. And so I call you one of the OGs because I really do think that you've been one of the pioneers, at least in our physician space, about this. So how did you guys really start getting into it? Did you do your research and you're like, okay, we know that the baby boomers are at that age. Let's start doing this. Did you have an opportunity to come to you, fall into your lap? Like, how did you really get started with that?
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. We got started by Luke and Charlie and I are in a mastermind called the War Room, which is for military folks, military members, active duty, retirees, veterans. And we've been a part of that mastermind for almost 6 years now. And, I think shout out to just masterminds in general, it's super important to get around like-minded people. The information's out there for everything, right? You can find out how to invest in any sort of property or do any deal on YouTube or Bigger Pockets or our podcast or whatever that may be. But that community, that accountability is so important in that implementation. So we've been in that mastermind for 5 to 6 years now, and we meet every Tuesday night. And Luke, one night, about 2.5 years ago, was just like, hey guys, I'm going to buy an assisted living home in Arizona. And we did what's called the hot seat every night. So we just grilled him on it. And he's like, yeah, this just makes a lot of sense. And he kind of went over the supply demand mismatch and demographics. And he's like, look, I can cash flow $3,000 to $4,000 per month pretty passively leasing this out to an operator. Like, this is going to be easier than an Airbnb, provide way better benefit for folks, and is much needed. And so he's special operations in the Navy and just got after it. And so he, like, the next week, I think he was under contract, or 2 weeks later he was under contract, and it ended up working out exactly how he said. So then him and I partnered together, and Charlie, and everything from there. And that's kind of how we got into assisted living. We started investing in Arizona because there's a lot of seniors in Arizona, obviously, and the snowbird population. And then Luke had already built out the team, so it just made it a little bit easier to just start there. But then we really dove deep into assisted living, and I mean, man, like the demographics are insane. We're already about 946,000 to 1 million beds short. 82% of folks who live in assisted living right now are the silent generation. Okay. They're not even the baby boomers. The crazy thing is there's 77 million baby boomers. 7 out of 10 of them are going to need long-term care. So that's 59 million boomers who are going to need long-term care. And we're already 946,000 beds short. So we're not anywhere close to where we need to be. And so the opportunity is enormous. It's like I mentioned before, like the whale and the paddleboard, right? Like, we're trying to position ourselves the best we can. And there's just such a huge need, such a huge opportunity in this space. Yeah, we focus on residential assisted living. So a lot of people who hear assisted living, they think that big box facility you probably rotated in residency, where there's like, 100, 200 beds. It smells like piss. The caregivers are running around like their hair's on fire, and it's just a poor environment. That is not what we do. So we do residential assisted living. So that's your residential house, typically large single-story houses with as many bedrooms and bathrooms as you can have, that are renovated nicely, they're ADA compliant, and the residents live there. So you're typically, the homes are in between 10 to 16 residents, depending on what your state licensing requirements are and how many you can have. And they live there in a way more personalized environment. The caregiver ratios, instead of being 1 to 20, are like 1 to 5 or 1 to 8. So the residents are getting way better care. The families are really happy. They're living longer. They're in a way better community. They're embedded in a neighborhood, which may or may not be near where they already lived and spent their whole life. So it's just a really amazing opportunity for folks to get the quality care that they need, and to have that personalized environment, the community, and all those sorts of things. So it's interesting if you look back at what COVID did to the assisted living facilities, these big box facilities. I mean, we've all heard this horror stories. We all remember, like, it just ravaged through those. And so these residential assisted living homes did way better with COVID. And as more and more people are starting to learn about this, they're like, hey, this makes a lot of sense. And the crazy thing is, if you look at how much it costs for a big box facility, on average, it's about $72,000 per year. If you look at residential assisted living, it's ballpark about 54,000. So it's cheaper to be in a residential assisted living home, to get way better care, and to be in a better community. And so that's one of the many reasons that we love it. I'll stop there in case you have any questions. I could keep going all day.
No, no, I can tell. I love it, man. I do have questions. So you guys basically have an operator that leases it from you, who sounds like he sends partner with you now on future deal or more recent deals. But so you lease it out to him. He operates it. Is that basically like a property manager, their group that runs the place, and you guys are hands off?
Yep, kind of, Kyle. Yeah, there's 4 different ways you can invest in assisted living. And I'll kind of go through those because that might help folks kind of think about, hey, where could I fit in this picture, especially as a physician. The first way would be owning the real estate and owning the operations, right? So you own the assisted living home. You also oversee or run all the operations. You're responsible for the hiring, for the licensing, for the day-to-day care, all of the above. Okay. That's going to cash flow the most. Obviously, that's going to be the most amount of work, owning the real estate and owning the operations and running that. You can cash flow 6 figures on one home. I mean, it is not unheard of to cash flow $10,000 to $15,000 per month on a full home that's run well. It's providing high quality care. Okay. So it's pretty amazing that you can get financial freedom with one home. And that's way number one. And there's some ways to make that more passive, like hiring a manager and those sorts of things who run operations for you, and you're the CEO above that. And we can talk more about that later. But option 1 would be owning the real estate, owning the operations. Number 2 would be owning the real estate and leasing that out to an operator. So we call that the lease to operator model. That's going to be more passive, right? Because you're not involved in the day-to-day care. There is risk to that because everything falls on the operator, right? So really important to make sure you're finding a good operator, you're vetting them well, you're making sure they're in the business for the right reasons, ideally have some good experience, because that's the linchpin, right? Like if they default on the lease or they want to leave, like then you have to start all the way over. So we haven't seen that as much in our assisted living homes. We had a few sober living homes in the past, and that was a whole nother beast we could talk about later, but I would not recommend that. We're not doing that anymore because there's just less buy-in for the operators. So like I said, number 2 would be leasing to an operator. Number 3 would be you're the operator. You're coming in and you're leasing the business from the landlord. So it's just flipping those 2 roles. And then number 4 would be just passively investing. Like, hey, Alex, I want to invest in one of your deals, or hey, let's do a JV or whatever that may look like, which is an amazing way to do it. As you go down that spectrum, the returns decrease, but also the amount of time that you're involved in the business decreases. So there's a lot of good ways to get in that. To answer your question, Kyle, we have 5 homes that we lease to an operator in Arizona. And so those are kind of a wide spectrum of homes. One's a memory care home, and a couple are just regular residential assisted living. One's behavioral for kids with disabilities. And those operators are on a commercial lease. They're responsible for everything except for mortgage, taxes, and insurance. Typically 3 to 5 year lease. 3 to 4% annual increase on the lease is how that's set up. And so the cool thing about that is they're responsible for the day-to-day care, the marketing, the licensing, the maintenance, all the above. We provide a good home warranty for them to help with any maintenance cost. And of course, these homes are in Arizona. So like, yeah, you want your AC fixed fast, especially when you have a bunch of seniors. And so that warranty helps, them cover some of those costs if something happens with the AC. But it's a great way to do it. As long as you find the right operator, you can cash flow, like I mentioned before, we're cash flowing $3,000 to $5,000 per month on each one of these homes. And it's way more passive than an Airbnb. And it's providing a way better service. That's the beauty of assisted living, is because you can invest for like growth, for freedom, and for purpose all in one. And like I said, the need is insane, man. I mean, I tell everyone, I'm like, if everybody I've ever talked to about assisted living opened 10 homes, we still wouldn't put a dent in what's needed, right? So it's like the competition is not really existent. It's non-existent, and the opportunity is massive.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, you can still have that abundance mindset, right? That we're helping everybody else, helping as a global cause. We're all here to make an impact. So, all right, what's your investor criteria or investment criteria for an assisted living? Like they're all over the place, of course. We could find some in Indiana, but what's your investment criteria to find one?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it depends where you're going to invest, but I'll kind of give you what to look for in a home. So if you're sitting here and you're thinking, man, this sounds awesome, but I don't even know where to get started from a home perspective, I'll give you kind of the criteria of what typically works well. But first, I'll start with what does not work. All the time we get people who reach out to us and they say, hey, I have a 2-story house that's 1,500 square feet. Will never work for assisted living. Okay. So what you're looking for is you want a single story, a ranch style house, as many bedrooms and bathrooms as possible. And the reason why that is important is the more bedrooms and bathrooms you have, the more private rooms you can have, and you can charge higher rates with private rooms. So as many bedrooms and bathrooms as you can have. You want that to be ideally in a neighborhood that's affluent, because what you're kind of targeting is you're looking more for like the 50 to 60-year-old demographic, right? Those are the kids of the seniors who are going to be in your homes, and they're looking for a place to place mom or dad that's near them. So you're looking for a more affluent neighborhood, 50s to 60s kind of demographic. They're going to be looking for a place to place mom and dad. You want that near healthcare. You want that to be easily accessible in a nice neighborhood. And we try and avoid HOAs. And typically what you can think about is if you have about 300 square feet per resident, and each state's going to have different number of residents that you can have. Like in Texas, you can have 16. In Arizona, you can only have 10. And in Colorado, you can have 16. So it just depends where you're investing. But if you have 300 square feet per resident, you can typically meet any potential square footage requirements that exist. Some places will have like, hey, the bedrooms need to be at least 8 by 12 for a single resident and 10 by 14 for a double. That's just an example. So if you're shooting for that 300 square feet per resident, you're typically going to meet those requirements as well. So that's what we're looking for. Some people will try and like make it work with multi-story homes, and then you probably need an elevator or stair chair, and like it just increased liability. The elevator's going to break, the stair chair is not going to work, like it's just going to be harder to get residents. So really trying to focus on that single story home is going to be a lot more beneficial.
Are you looking at certain states? Are you guys focused on the retirement states, or are you guys kind of looking all over the country and then whatever you find, you find?
Yeah. Right now, we're looking mainly in Colorado Springs because I'm here in Northern Virginia because that's where my partner Charlie is. Reason behind that, it's kind of multifold, but we want to get into the operations piece as well, the operations space. We're planning on hiring a manager and having multiple homes. Right now, what we're looking for is commercial plots of land where we can build multiple homes on one plot. So then you can have that economies of scale. Typically, when you have a manager, depending on the state and how many they can oversee, but typically 2 to 3 homes they can manage, and then you have the economies of scale of like, okay, we can share caregivers amongst each home, the manager can oversee all those homes, and it just makes things a lot more efficient and a lot more profitable from that perspective. So we're looking at that. We're open to really anywhere it makes sense. I mean, we're not married to the idea of Colorado Springs or Northern Virginia, but the reason that gets a little bit more important is from a lending perspective. And typically, so you can get SBA lending on these homes, which is amazing because you can wrap say you're buying a large single family home, you can wrap the renovations into that, the runway for operating costs and hiring and your staff and how long it's going to take for you to get residents. You can wrap all that together into an SBA loan and sometimes pay 10% down. So it's an amazing product, but what they're looking for is one of the team members needs to be in the location where that home is going to be operated. So they look at that, they look at experience. So that's what we're working on right now. And then through the mastermind, we have a bunch of folks who are in the process of developing or opening their homes. And we started a fund last year. And so we're going to help raise capital for our members in the mastermind in the RAL room. And so we're really excited about that, to offer those opportunities to folks to invest in. And it's really cool to be able to do that for the community.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know this changes per state, but obviously multifamily, like per door, the price has gone up like crazy. What is a typical per door price for these assisted living facilities?
Yeah, so they're priced a lot of the time, since they're residential, just comps in the single family market, right? Especially if it's vacant, especially if you're just buying a single family house that's never been operated as assisted living, you're just paying, retail. there's the opportunity. A lot of these that are operating are being run by these mom and pop operators who are getting ready to retire because they're the baby boomer generation. And so that's an opportunity as well to reach out and form relationships with some of these mom and pop operators and then, purchase their home from them. So if you're going to buy the real estate and the business, then there's typically, increased costs to purchase the business. Excuse me, there's not really like a clear equity multiple, right? People ask like, how do I evaluate the business or how do I value the business? It's hard, man. Like I've not found anything that's like, okay, well, you should be paying 3x EBITDA or whatever that may be, or 3x multiple on the business. But really it depends on like how many residents they have, licensing, is it already licensed, caregivers, all those sorts of things that you can weigh in for the business. But if you're just buying the property, man, you're paying retail, and ideally you can find some other deals, seller financing, off market, et cetera.
Yeah. So I mean, the fact that you said it's residential, so it's essentially like comp in the neighborhood. Even if it's 16 bedrooms, you still consider that like they're not separate units like it would be with a like 16 plex, right?
Yeah.
That's still basically a single family, 1 to 4.
Yeah, it depends. The easier when you're getting into that many bedrooms, like it's going to be really hard to find a 16-bedroom house that makes sense. So those are typically going to be like your new development deals that you're building from the ground up strictly for memory care or assisted living. But yeah, you're exactly right. Oftentimes banks will look at it more from a commercial perspective because you are running the business out of the home. So for like our deals, we've had to use commercial loans for them. In only one of them did we have to get a commercial appraisal for, which was interesting and very expensive for folks who haven't done a commercial appraisal compared to residential. But yeah, typically your lending for one of these like lease to operator homes is going to be a commercial mortgage and or a debt service coverage ratio loan, DSCR loan. We've been educating more and more folks about that, and they're really interested in the space. So that's another good way that you could potentially get a mortgage on these properties. It's a bit harder to do residential. You would probably have to buy it residential, renovate it, then refinance into something commercial potentially. But yeah, so that's how that process typically goes.
Okay. So say, the listener or myself, we start looking for some residential possibilities in the area you live. If I feel like I find something, is it, how do we reach out to you guys and say, hey, would you want a JV on this deal? Or could you guys help me with this? Like, what's the best way to reach out to you guys and ask for help?
Yeah, I mean, you can reach out to me. I'm the only Alex Schloe that exists. So if you just Google me, you can figure out how to contact me. My email is just alex@physiciansandproperties.com. So you can absolutely do that. We try and help folks as best we can. I'm limited on time as active duty, so the priority goes to our mastermind members. But we're happy to hop on a call and happy to help folks along the way, regardless. I mean, it all goes back to the more of these homes that we can open, the more seniors that are going to get the care that they need and deserve. So happy to help in any way.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. We're not done yet. I have a couple more points I want to bring up to you. Yeah, I think you've done a phenomenal job with the residential assisted living and getting that out there for people. And just the numbers that you talked about are staggering. So it's cool to hear that. And that makes me want to start jumping on it, and see, what's out there, because you're right. That generation is in need big time.
Yeah.
What other thing, pearls would you want to talk about to say young, medical students or residents about assisted living? And then we can move on to a couple different topics. But anything else any other points you want to drive home on that?
Yeah, I think we hit, a pretty good broad overview. I mean, really, if you just look at supply demand, it makes sense. If you just look at the demographics, it makes sense. And if you look at the need that's there and the value that you can provide, I mean, it's just so rewarding and makes a ton of sense. So I think, we were talking before the podcast, I think physicians, healthcare workers, et cetera, make such good investors in assisted living because we understand the need. We've all been there. We've all been in those nursing homes. We've all taken care of those patients who have, pressure ulcers that they should have never had, but they were sitting in their urine or their feces for too long. And so we all understand the need that's there. It's just the mechanics of doing it, right? And it's it's not that hard as long as you have the right people. And as time goes on, and as I've been learning more and more, I've realized, and I wish I realized this earlier, it's all about the right people. It's all about your network. It's all about your community. And if you have the right people, like, you can do anything. Even if you're in residency and you're listening to this, like, priority number one is learn as much as you can in residency. But you could absolutely still get involved or join a mastermind or partner with someone on one of these homes. And I think that's something that physicians think about a lot, is like, hey, I don't have that time or availability to operate a home, right? And I totally get that, and you shouldn't, right? It's not the best use of your time as a physician. But you could absolutely partner with another operator, or you could do one of these lease to operator homes. There's a lot of different ways that you can invest and make it attractive for physicians who are busy working their W-2.
Yeah, that's awesome. Keith Cunningham has a great quote, and it said, success is getting what you want. Fulfillment is giving what you got. And, with this, it sounds like you really can get both. And I think in real estate investing, you can get both. Like, you're making money, you're decreasing your taxes, but you're helping out the person that's living there, which is a great thing. Well, this is even, bigger than that, right? It's more fulfillment, because you're really helping out that generation of our, grandparents, or our parents, or our parents or grandparents, I should say. So I think that fulfillment is a big aspect to it.
Yeah, it's massive, man. And I'm all about that. I hope folks, can really see that, like, we just want to give as much as we can, and get as many of these open as we can, because the need is there. And like we mentioned before, that the competition is almost non-existent. So just do it, and just reach out, and we're happy to help. And we got a bunch of resources on our website, theralroom.com, that are free, and a podcast that's free. I mean, you can do a lot for free and learn a lot for free about this and how you can get involved.
Yep. That's awesome, man. All right, good deal. So, hey, real quick, I want to talk about the white coat investor real quick, just because we mentioned it at the beginning. And the more I talk to people, the more I dive deep into this stuff, and I follow, their the white coat investor forum on Facebook, and it seems like people are arguing about, like, what high yield savings account to jump into. Like, nobody has that financial intelligence to understand that doesn't really matter all that much, right? And so, I love the white coat investor. I mean, again, I read the book, in residency multiple times. I handed it out to medical students, but it seems like more and more, he's kind of going towards the Dave Ramsey conservative, almost scarcity mindset approach for physicians, and less of what I think of as the Robert Kiyosaki, like, buy assets, abundance mindset type approach, that mindset that we're going for. And so we talk about more, how to buy back your time, how to leverage assets, how to create passive cash flow now, not just when you're 65. Like, we're not just talking about maxing out your 401k and your IRA, work until you're 65, and then, take all that money out and retire. Like, we're talking about bigger things. So I just want to point out real quick his latest post, the white coat investor, and then just to get your viewpoint on it. His latest post was, you can buy anything you want on a physician income for the most part. Not everything you want, though. So you've got to decide. You can have early retirement, or you can send your kids to private school, or you can have the biggest, nicest house in the neighborhood, or you can fly first class to Europe 3 times per year. But you can't do it all. You've got to decide which of those things is most important to you. I would argue the abundance mentality is, we do want that all. Like, why can't we have that all? We make good money. Why can't we find ways to minimize our taxes, keep more of what we make, and do these things? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely, Kyle. I talk about the 10-year rule a lot, and I don't know if I've ever told you that, but I think about it through the lens of, in 10 years, if I have the money right now, and it's not going to break the bank, and I'm not going to have to go live on the streets. In 10 years, is the thing that I want to buy, or the thing I want to do, something I'm going to sit around the bonfire and tell my kids or tell my friends? Is that something I'm going to remember? And I look at it through that lens, right? Like, I don't know about you, but I would much rather travel to Europe, or go explore Iceland, or go camping with my family for a month right now, when I'm healthy and active and can do that, than wait until I'm 65 and who knows what my health's going to look like. And so I do disagree with this. I think you need to be strategic, you need to be smart in terms of investing, but you should absolutely leverage yourself and leverage your time. And I think that's something that they don't necessarily talk on as much with white coat investor. And I agree with you in terms of that kind of Dave Ramsey approach of budgeting and saving. Like you are not ever going to budget your way to financial freedom. Like it's just not going to happen, right? Like you not spending the money to go to Europe is not going to be the game changer for your financial freedom journey, right? But you bust your ass for the next 6 to 7, 8 years and you invest in different assets. And first well, let me step back. You bust your ass for the next 6 to 8 years, but first you figure out, what do I want in life? What are my goals are? What's my vision? What's my vivid vision? If folks haven't read that by Cameron Herold and worked on a vivid vision, like think about what is your 5-year goals, 3-year goals, even 1-year goals, and figure out what does my life look like and how can I make that possible, and dream really big. You can do that, and you can do all those different things. You can't do it all immediately, all at one time, but you can do it. And so, yeah, I disagree with that post. I think that abundance mindset is something I've been really trying to work on. And the more abundant I've been, the more that I feel like I've been blessed. And honestly, man, like I'm really excited for the day, and what drives me and what keeps me going is the fact that, like, I just want to give as much as I possibly can. Like, I don't think I'll ever stop working in real estate, entrepreneurship, or probably even in medicine to some degree, because I just like the game. And because think about like how amazing it would be to, make $1 million, net $1 million, and then pay all your teammates $1 million. Like, how awesome would that be? Or your employees, right? And so I have a goal right now I'll share here for the first time so folks can keep me accountable, that I've talked to my wife. I'm 32 years old. In 8 years, I'm going to turn 40. I want to have the most incredible 40th birthday party where I pay all my closest friends, or pay for all my closest friends to come stay somewhere epic. It's all on me. All you got to do is get there. And if you can't afford to get there, I want to help you pay to get out there. And so I think like that's the life that I want to live. I want to give with no expectation of return and go from there. But you can do that in real estate and entrepreneurship. You just got to put your head down. You got to grind, and you got to figure out what matters most.
I love it. That's awesome, man. Yeah, there's really no ceiling when it comes to this stuff, with real estate investing. And I feel like with physicians, there's a bit of a ceiling, right? You got to spend your time for that money. Whereas in real estate investing, buying assets, you don't. And that's the beauty of it. So it takes time. It takes time. It takes focus. It's not just whatever that, girl in the red dress, like Bitcoin, this, that, the other, you follow social media and there's hype and everything. Like, find something that's tried and true that works and focus on it. And that's what's going to make you successful.
Yeah. If I can say one more thing, I think folks are really worried about shiny object syndrome, right? Like, I am not anti-shiny object syndrome. If you listen to like me talking in the beginning of everything I've invested in and done and been involved in, it's very clear I have shiny object syndrome. But I think what you should do if you're just thinking about getting started investing in real estate, like, look at it like a buffet, right? You typically walk around and you sample a little bit of everything till you find the thing that you really like, and then that's what you focus on and that's what you eat. It's the same way. So it's totally fine to be like, hey, I think I'm interested in multifamily. Let me invest in a multifamily deal and see how that's run and learn about that. And then, hey, maybe you don't like it. That's totally fine. And then maybe next thing you try is short-term rentals or residential assisted living. Who knows what that is? But if you're just sitting on the sidelines thinking about how interested you may be in all of these different asset classes and you're not taking action, you're going to be sitting in the same spot in a year. And you're going to be just sitting there thinking, oh, maybe I'll do that one day. Just take action. Just get started, because that next deal is going to compound into the next one and the next one. You just have to do that first deal. That first deal is what's most important.
Yep. I love it. Great way to end it, man. That's great advice. Hey, so I finish all my podcast episodes with 4 final questions. They're quick. What book are you reading right now?
I'm a big reader. I'm reading 3 books right now. One is Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. Never read it before. It's been awesome. I've really learned lately that mindset is the key to massive success. And then every morning I read the Bible. I'm actually working on I have a Bible. It's a journal Bible for my son, Jack. He's 4. And each day I read a chapter and like either write some like my commentary on what happened in that chapter of the Bible, or just like something that I've been learning or something I want to pass on to him. So it's going to take me about 3 years to read the entire thing and pass it on to him. And then I'm going to start over again for my son, Owen. After I read the Bible, I read typically a religious book. So I'm reading C.S. Lewis, like signature classics. So right now I just finished Mere Christianity, and I'm reading the Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis. So yeah, love to read, man.
Amazing. I love to read too. Last year I started the 1 Year Bible.
So good.
got 80% of the way through. I just got to finish it now.
That's awesome, man.
Yep, that's great. Good for you. And the kids love that stuff, right? Like we read the kids, their kids Bibles, and they love it. I get a ton out of it too, but it's awesome.
Yeah, well, it really distills down like the key principles and makes it entertaining. Yeah, agreed.
Exactly. All right. What advice would you give to your 25-year-old self? I mean, you're only 32, you said, right? You're a young bug. So,
Yeah, maybe I'll go back to like my 18-year-olds, or I guess how old was I when I was going into med school?
go to medical school, 22.
Yeah, yeah. I would just listen to the advice that my dad gave me. I would have bought the duplex. I would have renovated that indoor, like house hacked a property with all my buddies in med school and cash flowed while I was in med school. That's what I would have done. That's what I recommend any resident do. Like, hey, utilize the physician loan, buy a property with no money down, make it 4 or 5, 6 bedroom house, and then rent it all out to your residency mates and get paid to live there. You'll probably make more money doing that than you will in residency. So yeah, that's what I would tell my med school self.
Yeah, that's good advice. What is your definition of wealth?
Freedom, financial freedom, time freedom, and mental freedom.
Love that. Proverbs 11:25 states, "A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed." If you could make a big impact by giving back, what would you or have you focused on?
Couple things. I mentioned before, just giving back to family and friends and employees. I think that's huge. Also, I obviously Christian, huge fan of Young Life. I was a wildlife leader, so that was middle school kids, Young Life leader, and just love Young Life and the mission there of just meeting kids where they are and helping lead them to Christ. And so, would definitely give back a lot to Young Life, and yeah, that'd probably be my focus. And then, of course, giving back to the senior community as well.
Yep, love that. Hey, so real quick on Young Life, when we were in Charleston for the last couple of years, I was not aware of Young Life. I grew up Catholic. Now my wife and I are, we go to a non-denominational Christian church. She grew up Christian, so she knew all about Young Life, was a part of it. And one of our friends invited us to a Young Life dinner, right? And so we got to experience what they do and how they do it. And the kids came up and talked about it, and I was very impressed. I had an idea of what I would probably give that night, and I think I tripled it just based on everything I heard. And I loved it, man. It made a huge impact on me, and I would love for my kids to get involved.
Yeah, Young Life's amazing, man. Yeah, absolutely love it. It completely transformed my life. We'll be forever grateful. I'd say the other thing that I thought about while you were mentioning that, Kyle, the other thing that I really feel a pull on my heart is for kids, for sons, like for our sons. And I think it's a hard time to be a kid. I think it's a really hard time to raise a son to be like a masculine, godly man going forward with social media and everything else that's going on. And so I think if, someone gave me $1 million check right now, I would love to buy a property in a national park somewhere on a body of water and build a rustic cabin with no internet, ideally no cell service, and just offer that to fathers to take their kids for free. And just go up there and just experience what it's like to be in nature, what it's like to be a man, maybe have like an archery range and some boats and all those sorts of things out there, and just get that experience with your son one-on-one. So yeah, that's another thing that I would definitely be doing too.
Love that, man. And to piggyback on that Wild at Heart book by John Eldridge is fantastic, man.
Yeah. Read it every year. I tell everybody about Wild at Heart. One of my favorite books, if not my favorite book of all time. John Eldridge actually lives in Colorado Springs. I just need to have the balls to reach out to him.
Come on, man, you have to.
Yeah. But yeah, I love that book, Wild at Heart. Everybody should read that, whether you are a man, whether you're a woman, whether you have kids or not. I mean, it's a complete game changer and has really impacted how I've raised my boys, because I want them to just be wild at heart.
Yep. I love it, man. This is great. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I learned a ton about you tonight, and I respect you even more. Not that I didn't already, but you're just a great all around guy, and obviously a good father and husband, and you have a good heart. So we appreciate you. Again, where can people find you?
Yeah, Instagram at Physicians and Properties, or Schloe3, which is my last name. I'm on LinkedIn as well. You just search for my name. If you're interested more in residential assisted living, we have a website called the RAL Room, which is a lot of resources for assisted living. You can get a free 10-step guide for how to get started there, learn more about what we're doing there as well. So all those ways are great places to reach out. And like I mentioned before, feel free. You can even shoot me an email at alex@physiciansandproperties.com. So happy to connect with anyone, and just really appreciate the opportunity to come on the show tonight.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate you.
Thanks, man.
This is my time. I'm on the rise. Can't hold me down.
Thank you for tuning in to the Assets and Orthopedics podcast. If you're ready to elevate your mindset, build your empire, and create a lasting legacy, don't miss the inaugural Legacy RX Conference on October 24th and 25th in Indianapolis, Indiana. It will be a transformative weekend designed to help you unlock your potential, take bold action, and redefine your future. Visit LegacyRxConference.com to grab your ticket and join the movement. Until next time, be bold, embrace the hunt, unleash the beast.